Hey, welcome back to the Diaries of a Content Creator. Today, I was going to talk about everything from building a coaching business with YouTube, how all the launches went, how I did the launches, how I priced my programs, all of that stuff. So if you're new here, these videos are more free form. I don't have a script. I just kind of speak to the camera about my experience in the hopes that it will teach you something about things to avoid on your YouTube journey if you're trying to build a business with YouTube, or things to expect. I share everything from the hurdles to the wins to the space plants. So yeah, and let me know what you guys want to learn in these, because I'm all about being raw and open in these so that the content creator journey is really clear to others, like what's actually happening behind the scenes, and not like the fake Instagram story success like preview or picture that people give you outside of the reality. Okay, so I will start from the beginning of my YouTube journey. When I first started, I think around the time I got monetized, which was about 10 weeks into my journey, people started asking in the comments if I would do coaching. And at that point, I didn't really have a plan for my business. I thought I was just gonna get ad revenue and become a millionaire that way. I thought YouTube AdSense paid millions of dollars and life would just be grand, just make videos and make lots of AdSense money. But I quickly learned that was not the case. My first AdSense check was around 236 euros. And since then it's fluctuated anywhere between, I don't know, around 600 euros to 2,000 euros. It's like fluctuating all the time. Usually depends on whether or not I do a video that talks about how much money I make, because usually those videos go viral for me, and that's when I get more AdSense, when the video gets more views. But anyway, so I started doing coaching simply by, when people asked for it, I just set up a calendar. I priced it, I did Calendly link, and I put it in my description. And I said, if you want to meet with me, here's how. And it was for 1 hour. And I charged $65 US dollars for the first week that I did it. And all the openings I had, which were very minimal, I didn't open so many calendar appointments up because I still was at home with my kids at that time, full time. So I opened up what I could, and a few hours a day, and those were becoming fully booked. So I think 2 weeks later, I raised it to $75 an hour. And then I started seeing in the comments, people were like, you could raise it even more, you could raise it even more. But anyway, I kept it at $75 an hour, and I was getting fully booked. And so at that moment, I realized that there was a lot of demand for me, and I didn't really know what to do next. I was like, should I build a course? Because I was a teacher. My past, career was an architecture professor and also a designer here in Finland. And so I knew that I knew how to create courses because I'd written many courses for academia back in the States. And so I was comfortable making courses. So I was like, well, maybe I could just make courses and have this coaching and courses as my income. But I wasn't sure if that was the best route. And I really wanted to do it right this time because I had been laid off from my job and I didn't have any desire to work for anyone else after that layoff. And so I was like going all in. And so I went and I researched and I tried it. I was thinking maybe I start a Skool membership, maybe I start this, maybe I start that. I was researching all these things and I stumbled upon my business mentor's Skool community. And so I joined it. There was like, you could join for the first 14 days or something for free. And then after that, pay for it. And so I was like, well, it can't hurt to join. And he had like a free call that you could get on if you joined, for the first certain amount of people that joined. And I was still under that number. And actually, before I got on a free call with him, there was a group call. And so I got on the group call, I told him my situation, what was going on, and he was asking a bunch of questions about my situation to get clarity on it. And then he said, right away, double your price for your coaching calls. Go from 75 to 150. Put it at $150 an hour today. And I was really scared to do that because I was like, who am I to charge that much? I just started on YouTube. I'd only been on YouTube like 3.5 months, 4 months or something like that. And I was trying to teach people how to grow on YouTube, and I just started YouTube, such a short time ago. So I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I was like, you know what? He's like, you can always put it back. And I was like, okay. And it's not like I was announcing anywhere that I was raising my price, right? I just did it in the calendar link. And so I raised it to 150. And those first 4 hours before someone signed up were really scary for me. But someone signed up that day and I was just like, okay, there's validation that someone's willing to pay that for me. And so it was great. And so I saw that that mentor, that business mentor, got me results without even having a real call with him one-to-one. It was a group call. And so then later I had a group call with him, then I had a one-on-one call with him as for joining the community. And I realized right there and then that I needed his help and that he could help me go from where I was to where I wanted to be. And even though I didn't really know where I wanted to be, but I told him I wanted to make $4,000 a month. That was my target. And he was very confident that he could get me there based on what I was experiencing already with my channel, the success of my channel growth, people wanting to work with me, being fully booked in my calendar, all of those things. And so eventually when I worked with him, the first thing we did was we set up a community because I was already thinking about a membership. And so we started a free community. I wasn't planning on starting a free community. I was actually thinking of starting a paid community. So we started a free community and then we saw how much it grew. And so I just left it free. Originally it was going to be free for the beginning and then eventually a charge, like once it got to a certain size, but it's been free and it always will be free and it still is free. And it's about 7,000 people in there now and growing. But anyway, so we started the free community. And the reason for that is because a lot of sales, I didn't realize this when I started, a lot of sales happen off platform. So they happen off of YouTube. So your sales, usually 80% of your sales actually happen off of the platform that you are promoting your services on. So that's why we were going to create a Skool community so I could have another funnel into people gaining trust with me, getting in my funnel, et cetera, et cetera. And actually, the reason I created the membership was because I just wanted to have a place to actually meet these people that were supporting my channel in a different way than just talking to them in the comments on YouTube. That's another story. So anyway, I wanted to create a space for creators to help each other, which I did. So then the next step was he's like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Your coaching is working. So we take what's working and we double down on that. Kind of like you always hear with your YouTube videos. If a video works, you double down and do that video again and again and again until it doesn't work anymore. So if coaching was working for me, he said the next best thing was not to write a course, but was to double down on what was working, and coaching was working. So instead of just creating coaching, now I was going to package that into a mentorship, which means I just coached people for longer periods of time. Same thing, just packaged differently with a much different price point. So what I ended up doing is we did a launch for the first cohort of my mentorship program. And it wasn't a group mentorship. It was still one-on-one, but I was launching it at one particular time and getting as many people into that program at that time. Following my mentor's advice, I launched it as an application process. And then once I received all the applications, I received over 150 applications. I just did a simple Google form. I put it out there and I said in a video, I'm launching a mentorship program. For anyone that's interested, apply. And then I will get back to you after I review all the applications. And so I went through all the applications, and the application form itself had certain questions which I didn't really understand at the time because I was so new to all this, but it has certain questions that help you to determine who would be the best candidate for your program, like who would be the best match for you, right? Based on, you know, the income level that they're at, the income level they desire, their ability to go after their goals, their urgency with wanting to get the goals achieved, you know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to commit to this program if I were to say yes to you, or not that, but something like that, right? 1 to 10. And if anyone answered like 5 or even 6 or 7, I didn't consider them. I only considered the people that were 8, 9s, or 10s that were ready to jump on this program. And so like things like that helps you to break down who you want to call back, right? If you do it this way. And so since I had over 100 and something, 130, 160, I can't remember exactly, applications, I tried to pick the best ones. Again, I was so new at this, I didn't really know which ones to choose. So I chose about 60 applications to call back. 50 or 60, I can't remember the exact numbers, but somewhere around there, because my coach was telling me, my business mentor was telling me that, you know, there's going to be some people that don't get the emails, that's going to go to spam. There's going to be some people that get the emails, but then forget to sign up. There's going to be people that get the emails that are not interested, even though they filled out the application form, they changed their mind. So he was like, just call back 60 people. And so what I did then is I messaged all those 60 people, but I didn't just send them an email that said, congratulations, you made it through the second round of applications. Here's the link to get on my calendar. No, I made individual looms for all of them. I read through their application, and then I did a 1 to 2 minute loom that said, hey, Christy, thank you for your application. I find it really interesting that you want to grow a channel that's based on helping children to speak or something like that, right? So I would do a quick loom with their name. It was personalized, and something in their application that showed that I read the application, that I was considering them seriously. And so I would create those looms. I emailed all those looms. I added them into emails. And so I sent about 60 emails, or I did send about 60, like 60 emails. However many I did, right? And so those emails went out. I got about 40 people to sign up for the calls. I think about 30 actually showed up to the calls that signed up for the actual calendar times. And I got 22 people to buy out of those people that actually got on my calendar. And so it was a very successful launch for the first launch. And I took calls on Saturday and Sunday, 2 weekends in a row. I wasn't planning on doing 2 weekends. I was only planning on doing 1 weekend. And I got 10 people into the program the first weekend. And I worked long days. So I did sales calls. I was having calls with people every 15 minutes or every half hour. Every half hour I did a call. And so I was doing calls every half hour, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I cleared it with my husband. I'm like, this weekend, I need you to watch the kids. I'm just going to be in the garage. I was in the garage doing calls in the garage for like 8-hour days each day. And 8-hour days, like late into the night, because I knew the majority of my population was coming from the US. And so I stayed up till almost 2 a.m. on these calls. Okay, so I did that. And I did the first weekend, and we got 10 people in. And that's how many people I wanted in my program. I was like, I can handle 10 people. But then I was talking to my business mentor, and he's like, you really need to seize the opportunity when life gives it to you. So I would do the same thing and repeat on the next weekend. So I repeated it again on the next weekend. In 4 days, I got 22 people into my program, and I made $72,000. But here's the thing. I sold $72,000. This is also a huge learning for me that I didn't realize. I sold $72,000 worth of coaching, but I didn't receive $72,000 worth of coaching. I think I probably only earned about $35,000 from that. There was so many people that ghosted, who showed up to the program and only stayed for a few months, who showed up to the program, stayed 6 months, but yet I gave them a payment plan of 12 months, and then they ghosted the payment plan after the program was over at 6 months, so I only got half of their payment, right? So there was all these little things, like when I did the coaching program, the mentorship program, my mentor was saying to me, I wouldn't do payment plans beyond the length of the program. My husband was saying I wouldn't do payment plans at all. And so, but I was in the place of like, I really needed payment plans when I bought the first course I did for YouTube, when I bought a YouTube course when I got laid off. I really needed the year payment plan in order to buy that course because I had just lost my job. And so I was in the place of like, I really want to help people and I trust people will pay. Yeah, no, people don't pay. Of course, some people pay, right? Like I pay, you would probably pay, right? But like the majority of the people in that program did not pay, about half. So it was about 50-50. So now, and the thing about that, it was a great learning experience. I learned so much, even though I took on 22 people, which almost killed me, by the way. It was way too much for a mom of 3 with lots of responsibilities to try and take on 22 people and coach them in a program I hadn't even created yet that was brand new to me after doing a launch. It was so much to take on. For someone like my business mentor who's 22, I think he could handle it. He has no kids. He could, stay up all night, wake up whenever he wants, get actual sleep at night. I was waking up at night for my kids. So it was too much for me to take on. But I'm still glad I did it. I don't regret anything. And anyway, with that first launch, because I took on too much and because I started everyone at the same time, everybody wanted my attention. All 22 people wanted my attention at that time. And I had said in the call, if you have a channel already, I will do a channel audit. Well, channel audits took me about 2 to 3 hours to do per person. So I had to do channel audits before I met with the people. I had made all of these promises that I didn't realize that I started the program the next week after the launch. So, which was really stupid. So if you do a launch, know that launches take a lot out of you because you're doing lots of sales calls. You're talking to a lot of people. You're being on Zoom, or you're on the phone, whatever, but it takes a lot out of you to be in that sales mode especially when you're new and you feel uncomfortable. It's just very draining. And just doing something you've never done before is also draining. So I started the program way too soon. Like I was like, well, we'll start next week, like, ooh, great idea. No, not a good idea. Give yourself some breathing time after your launch is completed before you actually start the program. That's what number one. Number two, don't take on too many people when you're new. Number three, don't promise or don't start everyone at the same day. Like it was insane, but I learned a lot. And another thing I learned too is that I also learned what I'm not good at and what I am good at. So I'm a teacher by nature. So I'm not really a coach. I'm not like an accountability buddy. I'm not I'm just not an accountability buddy. I'm a teacher by nature. So I like to give assignments. You do the assignment, you give it back, I grade it, and we move on. Like that's how I work. So I realized that there were some people that came into the program wanting an accountability buddy. They wanted me to check in with them every day to see if they did what I asked them to do. And I'm just not that person because I don't work that way. And honestly, if I had someone checking on me every single day, I would feel like they didn't trust in my ability to get things done. And it would almost feel like an insult. And that's why I can't be an accountability buddy for someone, because I feel like it's treating them like a child in my head. So that's why that's not something I'm good at. And I also learned in this experience that the things I felt like I wasn't good at, I had to fix or I had to improve. And I was talking to Harut, my mentor, about it. And he's like, you don't need to fix that. You don't need to change who you are to be good at what you do. He was saying, and I know you're probably thinking, of course you need to gain skills. It's not that. It's that you can't work as a person you're not. For example, my husband is an engineer, super organized. Everything is like, right? I'm like a bee on flowers is how I describe myself. I go to one flower, grab a little bit, go to another flower, grab a little bit, go to, like I get things done, but I get things done in, like an ADHD way. I don't know, like I start something and then I get pulled to another thing and another thing, but by the end of the day, everything gets done, right? And so I can't really change that about myself. I can't make myself like this or super organized. I've tried a million times. I just can't do it, right? And so when I was going to Harut, I kept saying, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. And he's like, no, because here's the thing. He's like, do you have clients that like you? And I said, yeah, I have clients that love me and I have clients that hate me. And he's like, okay, the ones that hate you. He said, that's a great thing because that means it's really clear what you can do and what you can't do. He's like, you need to figure out why the ones that hate you, why they hate you. And I knew why. It was the accountability. It was the lack of structure. It was like, because I was fixing the problems that I saw that needed to be fixed right away with their channel to create channel growth. And that's how I work. I attack the most prioritizing problem first, and we go from there, and then we build on that, right? And these people wanted structure. It's like they almost wanted a class where you walk them through step by step on how to grow a channel. But channels and personalities and skills and all of those things need to be taken into account, where they are on their journey and what you focus on first, like what is top priority to get your growth, right? And so anyway, so I knew clearly what I was good at and what I wasn't based on the people giving me feedback of either hating me or loving me, and not really hating me, you know what I mean, right? And so I thought that was really interesting. And without my business mentor, I think I probably would have given up because I would have thought I was a failure. Even though there were people that loved me and were praising my skills and my help, there were ones that were not. And those are always louder in your mind than the ones that are happy, right? Like the negative comments on YouTube always hit you harder than the positive comments. And so that was another learning thing. It was like, he was telling me, you haven't attracted the right people. And he's like, and you'll get better at this. And it's also something that happens in the sales calls. Like the questions you ask and the responses people give in those sales calls, if you're in coaching or consulting, you will notice the language they use. And the ones that I didn't work well with were the ones that said things like, I couldn't do that. This would never work. I've tried this and it didn't work, so I know it doesn't work. They were very black and white, right? They were very like, and negative thinkers, and also not open to feedback. And so I also noticed that the best clients were the ones that were already entrepreneurs, had already tried to build a business. Like a lot of them already had a business that they were building outside of YouTube, and they were coming with either that business or with a different business idea to YouTube. So there was just a lot of things I started to notice. And it's not saying one is better than the other. It was just saying my personality as a coach or as a mentor was aligned better with this type of personality, because that's my personality, right? I'm ambitious. I don't give up. I take feedback well. I try things. I test things. I experiment. I have no problem, facing fear and going after things. And so I needed to attract those right people. And so I also learned in this process, working with my mentor, Harut, he was also telling me the language I use in my videos was attracting the wrong people. Because in my videos, I was always saying things like, if I could do this, you can do this. But I needed to add on to the end of that language, but it takes a lot of work. So it's like, if I could do this, you can do this, but only if you are willing to do what I have done, which is to work your butt off, right? And to show up with fear and face fear and take on challenges and experiment and try different things and hit your face to the floor and get back up, wipe off the sweat, wipe off the tears and the blood and keep going. So I needed to change my messaging to that. And you will notice my videos now are a lot more tough. They're a lot more tough love than they are like optimistic, lovey-dovey, you can do this. They're much more like realistic viewpoint of YouTube and content creation. So that was the first launch and what I learned from the first launch. Then I thought, I was telling my mentor, I don't really want to do a launch again. And he was like, okay. I was like, well, maybe if I just open up I'll do a 3-month program, I'll put it out there. So I changed from the 6-month program to the 3-month program. And I was towards the end of the 6-month program. So like around month 5, or 4 or 5, I needed to start recruiting into a new program. But I didn't want to do a big launch like I did last time. And I wanted to do a shorter program because I felt like I didn't have enough to teach them for 6 months. I only felt like I had enough to teach people for 3 months, which was also a learning curve because of course you always have something to teach. But I just didn't feel like I had the skills to teach anyone beyond the 3 months. I felt like I just kept repeating myself at that point. And maybe I didn't have the skills then, I don't know, but my mentor apparently was confident in the fact that I had the skills to teach them more than 3 months worth of stuff. But he still was like, okay, and that's what I like about my business mentor. He lets me also have my own opinion and also make my own mistakes. So he will say, I wouldn't advise this, but I think you need to get this out of your system. Or I wouldn't do it this way. I would actually encourage you to do it this way. But if you want to do it this way, go for it, right? And so he never discourages me entirely because he knows I'll learn something from it. And it won't if it were to kill my success, I think he would stop me from doing it. He would really advise against it. But if he knows I'm going to learn something and it's going to teach me something and it's going to eventually push me in the right direction, go for it, right? So I did a 3-month program. I didn't launch it. I just put it up on my channel and had work with me, and it went to a link about a VSL, a video sales page, video sales letter, but a page that talks about what I had to offer for the 3-month program. And about every other day, I was getting sales calls and then people into that program, and everyone was starting at different times. And I was having sales calls intermixed with client calls. And I realized I didn't really like that either. I didn't like having people start at all these different times because like I said, I'm not the most organized. So I had to learn that too, like how to organize clients, how to organize the forms that they filled out, how to organize everything. So that all goes into this as well. And had I been more organized, I might have been okay with that people starting at staggered times, right? So anyway, everyone was starting at different times. And then I was also still doing payment plans at that time. And so I had all these payment plans and invoices and everything all over the place. It was just a lot to manage. And so then I went back to my mentor a few months later and I was like, you know what? I think you were right. This whole starting whenever, 3-month program. The 3-month program I realized was too short, especially for new YouTubers. And I also realized that the staggered starts was like it didn't feel the best for me. I think I got scared of everybody start at one time because I took on too many people the first time I did it. But the second time, doing the second cohort of the staggered starts felt a little off too, right? So I was learning. I was always learning something. So then the third cohort, which is the most recent cohort I did, was for the 6-month program, and it was triple the price of the first time I did it. More than double. It wasn't quite triple, but it was more than double. And so I was able to work with half the amount of people. So I took in 8 people, and I made $64,000 with that cohort, 64,000 US dollars, I think it was, or 60, somewhere around there, 63, something like that. And then but it was actually 58,000 euros at the time. So euros and dollars, anyway, it was around $60,000. If you want to think in dollars, 58,000 euros if you want to think in euros. And so that version, this launch, I did differently. I didn't accept payment plans. I was done with payment plans, and I had no problem in the sales calls saying, I'm sorry, I do not offer payment plans, because I had been through so much pain with payment plans. I had so many people ghost me, so many people quit. And when you pour your heart into your clients, it is so disappointing to not get paid for it, to work with them for 6 months and then they don't pay you anymore. It was so disheartening. It hurt so bad. And so I had no problem now in my sales calls standing behind why I don't take payment plans anymore. So I did a one-time payment or a 2-payment plan, and the 2-payment plan was significantly marked up to discourage it. But I did offer a 2-payment plan. But the 2 payments were due 30 days consecutively apart. So it wasn't like at month 1 and month 3, it was like 1 month and then the next month, just to give them a little bit of cushion, 30-day cushion. And so anyway, so then the second cohort, I got people in, or the third cohort technically, well, the second cohort, because it was actually planned. The other one was the 3 months, just kind of like people come when they want. So the second official cohort, I got people in, I got 8 people in. I made around $60,000, and it was in my bank account. So that was a completely different shift. And what also shifted is when I had it all in my bank account, I didn't have to think about invoices, tracking invoices, payment plans, making sure people were paying. It was all gone. All of that stress was gone, which was amazing. And also the people that paid in full was a completely different caliber of people showing up into my program. They were invested in themselves. They were invested in doing the work. They came prepared. They showed up on time. They didn't cancel their calls. They did the work, and they were a beautiful bunch. And I'm still working with them. We're in month 4 now of that program. It ends at the end of this year. And then I start a new launch in January for this program. So anyway, so that program was much better. Now I recently decided, okay, I want to be able to scale this again. And I can't increase the price point anymore at this level. So here's another strategy that came in. So in the beginning, I was approaching new YouTubers who want to grow on YouTube, right? My first program was $3,600 for 6 months. And to be honest, when I first started those calls for that launch, we were doing it at $2,600, but everyone was saying yes. So I think 4 people got in at $2,600. I called my mentor and I said, I have 100% close rate right now with this program. And he said, raise the price. And so we raised the price, and we added a little bit more into the offer so that it made sense, so that the people who got it first and the people who got it second, there actually was a little bit of differentiation, so it was fair. And so I raised it by 1,000. So then the first launch ended up becoming $3,600 for 6 months. Then the cohort that was 3 months long, I charged $4,800 for 3 months. So I jumped the price up for the 3 months, right? And that was really hard for me to do. But we wanted to see what the highest I could charge at this level of people. And by this level of people, I mean new YouTubers. How much is it worth you to hire a coach at this early of your stage in your journey? How much are people willing to pay? And I think there is a cap for that, unless you happen to meet a completely rich, bored person that will just pay whatever they want to work with you, right? So that's why I have launched a new program most recently that is geared at entrepreneurs and people wanting to build a personal brand to get clients into their business, whether the business is offline or online. But the point is that they're going to use YouTube as the funnel to get people into their business. And so people will be more willing to pay for something that is bringing them money in. So that's why now my program that I'm doing now is the LEAP program, LEAP. That is LEAP, and that is focused on entrepreneurs and business owners who want to build their business. It's also focused on YouTubers who have been on YouTube that have traction, but they don't know how to get money. They don't know how to make money with YouTube, even though they have a business. They're not being successful at getting clients. And so I had to change my, my target audience to go after more of like the business-minded folks, the people that want to build a personal brand with YouTube versus just random new YouTubers wanting to grow on YouTube, because there's a cap of how high I can charge on that. And the cap that I came to was about 7,600, which was what the second cohort was. The second 6-month cohort was 7,600 for 6 months. And that's the one that I got 8 people into. So it was 7,600 for 6 months. And I got a few people in at 3 months. And that's the nice thing about sales calls. So let's say you're in a sales call and you're like, the program is 6 months long and it's this much money. And someone's like, oh, I really want to do it, but I actually only have about 5,000 to spend. Then in that call, you could be like, well, how about we do 3 months? 3 months to start. If you like the 3 months, we can continue. If you don't, if you feel like you got everything you needed, then we don't, right? And so I could adjust. So I got some people in at the full 6 month, the majority, I would say like 80% at the 6 months, and some at the 3 months. So that might be why if you try to add up the amount of money I made from that launch versus the amount of people that came in, it might not adjust because some of them came in at half the program and stuff like that. Anyway, so, and that's just the nice thing about being able to do sales calls for your program, because you can adjust based on what the person needs. So now that I'm selling a new program, and I didn't do a massive launch for it, I mentioned it in a video, I made a new VSL, and I posted that video on YouTube, and now I get people trickling into my calendar for that program, which is fine with me because I already have the other program still running until the end of the year, the one that's 7,600. But now I've started the new program and it's 9,800 for 6 months, and it's geared towards businesses growing on YouTube. And so it has the potential to attract clients that are able to pay at that price point because it goes into a business, and it's also a write-off if you have a business, right? So like I was able to write off my business mentor's astronomical fee to work with him for a year, but he's worth it, 100% worth it. But I was able to write that off with my business, right? So it makes a difference. And that's why having a business mentor is fantastic, because you can think strategically about your growth, and as you grow, how to go up to the next level. For example, my goal for this year is to make $1 million in revenue. Whether I hit that or not is not so important, but the point is to how much I need to start thinking out of the box to get there, and what do I need to do differently. So now that I have a program that is geared at entrepreneurs, people wanting to build a brand with YouTube and build a business with YouTube as the focus, I also need to adapt my content strategy on YouTube. I can't just make videos for new YouTubers, but I do need to make a mix of both. So now you'll see on my channel, I have videos about how to capture emails, how to build your personal brand, how to should you get paid or do free calls for your coaching. And I'm having more coaching videos coming out this next coming week. So yeah, I'm starting to adjust my content to get to this new level as well. And so all of these shifts and pivots take time. And everything that I have done up until this point has always been very scary, and it feels completely foreign, and I make mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes, right? So hopefully, I don't know, I hope this gives you some insight into the world of content creation and how it can change very fast. Like I started at 2,600 for my mentorship, then bumped it up to 3,600, then went to 4,800 for 3 months. And then actually I started at 4,800, but I panicked. I felt like I wasn't good enough to be a coach at 4,800 for 3 months. So I backpedaled and I went for 3,800 for 3 months for a few sales. And then I felt horrible because of the people that paid 4,800 and then people were paying 3,800 and it was not fair. And so then I went back up to 4,800. Like what your mind goes through and the experience you have, it's intense. It really is. And you try to do everything ethically with good ethics, right? And it's you, but you're still battling your own limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome and all of that along the way. So it's a mess. It really is. But it's also really exciting because I can see how far I've come. Like I am working with people that are paying me almost $10,000 for 6 months now, only a year and a half later from when I was charging $3,600, right? And you can achieve so much if you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because every time you push yourself outside that comfort zone and someone validates it by buying your services and then you deliver on those services and they get the results, then you know, okay, I'm worth it. I know I'm making a difference. I know I'm making an impact. And they tell you how much you're making an impact, even if you feel like, I don't even know what I'm doing for these people, but they're loving it. They think it's so amazing, right? And in your head, you have that war and you feel like you're not good enough and all this stuff. And yet your clients are saying you're great. And it's every day you have to like overcome a ton of mental blocks. And I don't know how to end this video, but I just want to say that, that's why I'm forcing myself with this $1 million goal, because I just look back at how much I went through and achieved and how much I learned about myself, about the business, about coaching, about content creation, all of the strategy that goes behind what you actually post on your channel to make sure you're attracting the right people. Like I said earlier, I was saying, if I can, you can, but that wasn't the case. I needed to say, if I can, you can, if you're willing to do what I did. All of those things, and learning who you work well with and who you don't work well with and how they speak about things so that you know to avoid those people. And also following your gut and your intuition is a big part of this game too, because there were many sales calls where in my head, I was like, this person, they're going to flake. I just know they're going to flake, but they had a sob story and it pulled at my heartstrings. And so I was like, oh, fine, I'll give you a payment plan, right? And as soon as I did that, they ditched, right? They left and they started and they complained about everything. Nothing was good enough. They wanted a refund. And I knew in that call, it wasn't right. There was something off, but I ignored my intuition. I don't do that anymore. I trust my gut, and you learn to trust your gut, and you just learn so much if you're willing to take these jumps and jump in and go for it. So this was a bit of a ramble, but I really hope you learned something from it and that it helps you on your journey. And also gives you an idea of pricing and how I changed my pricing and why and when and what I experienced when I changed my pricing. And I talk about that in a video called YouTube Has Me on My Knees. So you can check that one out for that information. But how when you increase your prices, you have to go through the imposter syndrome and face all of those things. So there's a whole nother ball game. There's just a mental ball game. There's the physical reality of like having to learn new skills, level up, all of that goes into it. But also there's strategy behind everything. And it's such an interesting education that I have never experienced before YouTube. And it's so fun. It's hard, but it's fun. And yeah, anyway, hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching Diaries of a Content Creator, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.